Did you find it?
Yeah.
Would everyone please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? And please remain standing for a moment of reflection for our troops who keep us free. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Lisa, would you kindly read the Open Public Meeting Act?
According to the Open Public Meetings Act, adequate notice of this meeting has been given to the Daily Record. Notice has been posted in the Municipal Building, 204 Flanders Drakestown Road, Bud Lake, New Jersey, and notices were sent to those requesting the same.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Amianda?
Here.
Mr. Ferrante?
Here.
Mrs. Leibau?
Here.
Mr. Perkins?
Here.
Mr. Roman?
Here.
Mr. Nicastro?
Here.
Mr. Mania?
Here. We're going to skip over the presentation and to discussion matters. Pardon? Until our mayor gets here. He was in a meeting, a very important meeting.
Thank you,
Mr.
Mr. Council
Canning.
President. Yeah, I was in the mayor in the meeting with the mayor. I just drive faster than he does, so I got here first. I'll defer best practices checklist to Sherry, as well as the results of the tax sale, and I'll tackle the Dan Jordan Field. So with the best practices, I'll defer to Sherry on that. She's done an excellent job. Again, the state gives certain demands upon every municipality in the state in order to get the CompTRA and the Garden State refund on our utility costs. And every year, we're very pleased to see that Mount Olive does comply with the best practices. Sherry did a lot of work on this, and they throw curveballs at us every year, and we tend to amend our policies in accord with the state, and we had to again this year. But I'll defer to Sherry on the minutia.
So we've had the checklist for, I want to say maybe 2 or 3 years now. One of the requirements is that we discuss it with the governing body before we actually send it into the state, which is why it's listed on the agenda. There are a series of 50 questions that we have to answer, and there's different categories that we have to cover, from finance to general policies, budgeting, things like that. Out of the 50, we actually answered 43 that were yes or not applicable. So we got a score of 86, which means that we will have 0% withheld from our final state aid allotment. What they do is they'll withhold the final 5% that you get in December if you don't maintain a certain level score. So fortunately enough, we have maintained the score that we needed to maintain. There is one policy actually that we're going to change for next year. The professional services resolutions, they're asking that we include more specific information in it, like the amount of the contract, the duration of the contract, things like that. So Sean has already sent a memo to Fred Summerow letting him know that we have to incorporate this language into the resolutions for next year. So if you see it, you'll know why it came up from this. And really, other than that, unless you have any questions, I think that we're good to go with it. Alex?
Mr. Roman?
On that, the question of if the ratio of assessed values to market values in your municipality is presently less than 65%. What we answered with not applicable, and we are over that percentage. What percentage are we at?
I think we're at, I want to say 95, 96%, Alex, is where we are now. So I said NA because it really doesn't apply to us at this point because we're well over that.
Yeah.
It's not an issue for us.
What's our historical percentage been?
I think it's typically been around that number. I mean, I can have Jack send you a spreadsheet to show you the ratios, but Colleen, go ahead. Oh, do you know this from Railting?
Yeah, I watch it really closely, and if you notice when we get the sales data from Jack's office, what's really nice is they added an extra column now that has, we used to just have the sales price, now we have the assessed value and the sales price, and if you look at it closely, in recent months, the houses have actually started selling for more than the assessed value, more times than not in recent months, which is really nice. It's not a huge percent, like 3, 4, maybe 5%, and it's very, very rare that it goes. Isn't it like 85 percentile is what you can't. It's a 15%. The market value.
Market
No,
to assessed,
the-
yeah.
Yeah, assessed value to market value can't be more than 15%, because that can trigger tax appeal, so we try to keep it within that 15 percentile. And, but yeah, so I'm so glad that Jack started adding that extra column in there, so we can really track it, and it shows that what we've been doing is really smart, because by not by not having a situation where people file tax appeals, it's really saving the taxpayers money in the long run, right, Sherry? Because we.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that we spent the money to do the reval and the
Money.
reassessments has definitely helped us out. There are
Well
other
spent.
towns that have not done that, that have some
Yeah.
issues, so.
That's
So
one
we're-
thing,
Yeah,
I
and I-
watch it like a hawk,
Yeah.
that thing.
I could state, defending the tax appeals, that since your last reassessment, it was money well spent, because you've produced stabilized ratios.
Yep.
So it's been very close to, being on target. It's within that 90% range. It's been excellent. It's been very stable compared to other towns now, so it's good.
Any other questions? Okay. Next on the agenda, we have resolutions. Any discussion?
Tax sale.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just wanted to brief council. I sent you a memo on Friday, and it had to do with the Dan Jordan field safety concerns. And I see Mike Obremski here from JCP&L. I'm not sure if he's briefed fully on this or not. He's our liaison from JCP&L. But Friday morning, I was briefed by Jim Lynch and Jill Dagan about a concern that was raised to us by a regional manager at the power company, and it had to do with a long-standing condition at Dan Jordan Fields, which really no one had ever envisioned, and never, just had never been brought up to us by JCP&L, and going back 50 years or 60 years of Dan Jordan being there, the township had never really considered as well, and it's a remote concern. But the concern is those overhead power lines combined with the fencing at Dan Jordan Fields. So Friday morning, I was briefed about 10:30 in the morning that there was a concern expressed by a regional manager that there could remotely be an arc problem from those lines to the fencing, and there was no provision historically to ground or bond those fields. Based upon that information, I immediately ordered the shutting of those fields out of public safety concerns. I contacted our engineer, Gene Bazinski, who immediately was able to subcontract with an electrical engineer. We have a meeting tomorrow morning at 11:30 down at the fields. It's not a high hurdle to get to as far as a bonding or grounding plan, but we do need an electrical engineer to design what has to be done. Council knows we have an electrician on staff through our prior bid process, so we don't have to go out to quotes, we don't have to wait for a lengthy bid process. We can use our approved vendor. I envision this to be, at the outset, a 14 or 21 day fix, maybe less. If it's a plan in place by late tomorrow or Thursday, I'm going to authorize the electrician to work through the weekend if we have to. We want to get the fields back in place for the kids and for the parents and for the families. But the worst case scenario would be for an unsafe condition to be out there, and God forbid anybody lean against that. And I know it's never happened. I also know my luck. I win the lottery. It's I got the Midas touch in reverse. So we want to make sure we shut those fields and make sure that anybody there is safe. And I hope to report back to council by our next meeting. We are safe. We're bonded, and it's safe for the kids to play. So we just want to make sure we kept council apprised of what had been brought our way. Mike, I don't know if you want to chime in on anything or.
You pretty much covered it, Sean.
Okay. All right, so we're on it. It's and we envision the kids being back on there shortly.
Mr. Rowland?
Sean, have we been in contact with the baseball organization to give them that timeline?
Yeah, immediately on Friday, I authorized Jim Lynch to get in touch with Paul LaCitra and all the heads of MOPSA, make sure to let them know every step of the way. Within an hour and a half, everybody was, from what I understand, was
But
apprised.
they were made aware of, at least on the timeline, how long they would be without those fields?
Yeah, from the outset, the engineer told me 14 to 21 days at the outset. So we don't envision this to being a big project. It's just, we need that engineer's certificate, the plan, and then just get an electrician in there. I will say, if our electrician is tied up for 10 days, I'll find another one. But we'll make sure we get work done and get those fields done ASAP.
Certainly glad it was discovered before anything happened.
Yeah, thank God.
Sean, anything else?
That's it, unless anybody has any questions on the tax sale. I'll defer to Sherry on that. There was Rose Barsanti, who works quite diligently on them and does a good job.
I think the memo is kind of self-explanatory, but the highlight that we sort of wanted to mention is the fact that we have a little over 1.1 million in premiums that we got from the tax sale. So I think that was our largest amount of premiums that we've gotten in the 15 years that I've been here. And the great thing is that we get to hold on to them and get the interest on them until the lien is redeemed. So it's great news for the town. So we just wanted to mention it.
Any questions?
Not on that.
Fred, you have some?
No, I'm good, Council President, thank you.
Okay. Sean, is that it?
That's it for discussion items, Mr. President. Thank you.
Next week on the agenda, we have resolutions. Any discussion, Mr. Roman?
John, on the first resolution regarding the change order, what's going to happen with that fan that's being replaced? Is it going to stay that way, or?
It'll stay that way for the time being. They don't feel that change order is necessary at the time being. Again, once they finish up some balancing issues, some other compressor issues, we may revisit this come winter. As of now, they've advised us they don't think it's necessary. It doesn't affect, in their opinion, the current temperature of the climate within the building. So for the time being, we'll pull that 905 back. That's not to say 2-3 months down the road we may reissue that again. But MCOR had requested that they don't want that hanging out there, and I do concur that we don't want that requisition or that bill hanging out there and us paying them inappropriately. So it's not an issue to bring it back to council November, December if that's needed.
So there's no, so it's not going to affect at all any of the other work that they've done to improve the system?
No. Currently, I mean, there's certainly there's work in this building that has to be done beyond what we've currently been able to accomplish. We have a better climate in here, and it's certainly safer than what we had a year ago when we had to make a claim to the joint insurance fund as to the mold situation we had in the court. Long term, I plan to bring to council a long-term capital plan. You have compressor issues around the building here. You have the outside units. I mean, myself and Councilman Perkins speak regularly about green energy grants, and certainly currently the Garden State Fund has not been as beneficial as they have been in the past. It's not to say they won't be in the future, but you have issues in the building here beyond your internal atmosphere, which I feel we've substantially rectified with this bid. But as we told the council from the beginning, it's not going to be 100%. You have to get the compressors changed, and it's going to be about a 6-year process. As of now, the safety component has been taken care of. We feel that any claims he may have due to mold or moisture or anything in the buildings has been rectified due to this contract. But you still have some work to do. But I think that the lion's share has been accomplished.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other discussion on the resolutions? Okay, the mayor has arrived. We'll proceed with the presentation of certificates to the Mount Olive Junior 12U girls team. Mayor?
Thank you. Can we call up the coaches, please?
Pardon?
Call up the coaches.
Coaches. He wants you to call the coaches.
Coaches, come up too.
First of all, let me apologize for being a little late. I was actually out with some vendors for the township, trying to save the township some money. And I asked the coaches to come up tonight. I can tell you that there is nobody who is more proud of what you guys have accomplished this year than I am. And it's been an incredible run. I expect nothing less next year, except to hopefully win. But even if you don't win, it was just phenomenal. I followed every game on the website, and we are just so very proud of everything that you guys have accomplished. You are the best that Mount Olive has put forward, and it's been 2 years now that you guys have been incredible. And I look forward to everything that you guys will achieve in the future. So on behalf of Mount Olive Township, let me be the first to applaud all of your efforts. If you would be so kind to read out the names of the individual players.
Sure. Okay, Alyssa Segnello.
Yeah, we're going to set up here afterwards. Yes. Now you got to read up here. Give them the certificates, otherwise it won't end up in the record. Just move close to the table.
You got it. All right, Bella Salafia. Anna Callahan. Joel Tamouche. Lindsay Walton. Lauren James. Charlotte Salafia. Tori's not here. Caitlin Pettinger. Ashley Gallagher. Aaliyah Lloyd. Leah Schmidt. I'd also like to recognize Coach Joe Tamouche. Coach Steve Schmidt. And Coach Mac Callahan.
Thank you. It is a great honor to be up here with these women, and I look forward to being up here next year and celebrating again their accomplishments, because I know they're going to be there again. It's a great-looking group, and I know I share with John Maney, our council president, and the rest of our town council in celebrating their accomplishments. No, wait, stay up here for a picture.
All right, double line, girls.
You can tell they're used to it. They got their,
You got it down.
yeah, they got their positions.
Congratulations, great job.
Congratulations.
So cute. John Maney again, that photograph. I'm gonna go with the problem.
Before you guys leave, it's a great accomplishment that you guys have done, really beyond anything you can say on the podium. We're really, really proud of you guys. Keep it up. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Very exciting. I gotta drive faster. Take care. Take care.
Well, boring now.
We lose our audience.
Yeah,
Got business, right, John? There we go. We're down to it.
Michael Bremsky's here. Say something. There's a discussion items or not. No, he's not. He just came in. Let's give us one.
Hey, John, before we move on to the next item, I see John Obremski is
Mike.
here from Mike Obremski from JCP.
Sure.
I don't know if he had anything that he wanted to say, but I can tell you that our communication with JCP&L since Mike has taken over has been incredible. So,
Mayor, I really don't have anything. I was just coming out to say hello and see what's going
Just
out
like
in Mount
to be here
Olive.
with us.
Nothing better to do on a Tuesday night. But I have to thank you, Mayor. When I do send those notifications out, I notice you put them right on your Facebook page,
Yes.
and it really helps get our message out and lets the customers know what's going on. So I do appreciate all your help.
during the times that we had problems with JCP&L, it was that we weren't getting the communication that we needed to inform our residents. And since you have been involved, and I know it's not just you, it's a total change.
We've changed our whole process.
But I do appreciate the fact that you are our person and that you are accountable to Mount Olive,
Yep.
and we love you here at Mount
No, it's a
Olive.
pleasure coming up here. It's when I had the opportunity to come west to the towns that I know, it was a great opportunity, and I'm glad I'm here.
And I know you're not just here at our council meetings, but you're at a lot of events
Yep.
in Mount Olive, and we do appreciate the fact that JCP&L takes advantage of the opportunities to support Mount Olive, and if there's anything that we can do to help support JCP&L, we're partners.
Yep, and that's one of the changes we made, is our upper management has said, go out and be with your towns. We kind of disappeared for a few years, but we're back out and attending events. It's your 9/11 ceremony was wonderful. It was great that I had the opportunity to come up to see that, so it's nice to get out to see all you folks and all the events that you do in Mount Olive. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you.
That only leaves David J. in the audience, so if you want to invite him up at this point.
I can tell you that I interviewed the mayor of Hackettstown, who said the same thing about Jason P. L. I don't know if you're there. I stopped at Mount Olive. She had the same thing to say.
Okay, next on the agenda is ordinance. Any discussion on the ordinance? Mr. Roman?
Sean, can you give me a brief, why this ordinance was needed?
It's just to get us up to speed. It was at the advice of Chuck McGrady, our planner, came to the planning office. Chuck saw the need to update the land use ordinance. Again, these are things that are above my pay grade. That's why I rely on Chuck with the planning. You know, he did offer to come here if there was special concerns to the council tonight.
It just looks like language was just cleaned up.
Yes.
Yeah, and that's what it was. It was housekeeping. If council does want, I can get Chuck here to a future meeting. But again, it was, you know, he keeps apprised of everything goes on down in Trenton with the case law and the current everything of you know, pertaining as the planning aspect. We rely on him to just, you know, clean stuff up as it comes along. So again, I rely on his memo and his ordinance on this.
Chuck is also going to provide me with a summary for publication, so I'll make you a copy of that when I get it.
Any other discussion? Hearing none. Any old business? Any new business? Anyone from the public wish to be heard? If not, I'll close it to the public. A motion to adjourn to the public meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Mr. Amianda?
Yes.
Mr. Frente?
Here.
No.
Yes.
Yes. Mrs. Laybow?
Yes.
Mr. Perkins?
Yes.
Mr. Roman?
Why not? Yes.
Mr. Nacastro?
Yes.
Mr. Mania?
Yes. Okay. Okay, so would you read the Open Public Meetings Act?
According to the Open Public Meetings Act, adequate notice of this meeting has been given to the Daily Record. Notice has been posted in the Municipal Building, 204 Flanders Drakestown Road, Bud Lake, New Jersey, and notices were sent to those requesting the same.
Roll call.
Mr. Amianda?
Here.
Mr. Ferrente?
Here.
Mrs. Laybow?
Here.
Mr. Perkins?
Here.
Mr. Roman?
Still here.
Mr. Nacastro?
Here.
Mr. Mania?
Here. Okay, Mr. Amianda, would you move the approval of minutes of previous
yes.
meetings?
I move approval of minutes of previous meetings.
Is there a second? Hold on a second. Roll call.
Mr. Amianda?
Yes.
Mr. Ferrente?
Yes.
Mrs. Laybow?
Yes.
Mr. Perkins?
Yes.
Mr. Roman?
Yes.
Mr. Nacastro?
Yes.
Mr. Mania?
Yes. Okay, we have some letters of correspondence from residents and organizations and other towns. Any discussion? Okay, hearing none. Next is ordinance for public hearing. We have none. Ordinance for first reading, we have. Next item on the agenda for first reading is ordinance number 20-2014, an ordinance of the Township Council of the Township of Mount Olive in the County of Morris, State of New Jersey, amending Chapter 106, Dogs and Other Animals. Mr. Ferranti, would you move that?
Sure, I move that ordinance number 20-2014 be introduced by title and passed on first reading, and that a meeting be held on October 14th, 2014, at 7 p.m. at the Municipal Building, 204 Flanders Drakestown Road, Bud Lake, New Jersey, for a public hearing, consideration of second reading and passage of said ordinance, and that the clerk be directed to publish, post, and make available said ordinance in accordance with the requirements of the law.
Second.
Is there a second?
Second.
Mrs. Laybow, second. Any discussion? Roll call.
This did go before the Board of Health, and they sent us a resolution that's in your packet approving it. Mr. Amianda?
Yes.
Mr. Frente?
Yes.
Mrs. Laybow?
Yes.
Mr. Perkins?
Yes.
Mr. Roman?
Yes.
Mr. Nacastro?
Yes.
Mr. Mania?
Yes. Consent resolutions. Mrs. Labow,
Do we want to ask if anyone wants to have any removed?
is there any to wish to be moved to non-consent?
We've moved past that. We're all on
Okay,
consent.
we're all on
now,
board.
so-
There we go. I move consent resolutions 1 through 4.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call?
Mr. Amianda?
Yes.
Mr. Ferrente?
Yes.
Mrs. Labow?
Yes.
Mr. Perkins?
Yes.
Mr. Roman?
Yes.
Mr. Nacastro?
Yes.
Mr. Mania?
Yes. We have consent motions. Mr. Perkins.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. I move for approval of the bill list, pages 1 through 20.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call?
Mr. Amianda?
Yes.
Mr. Ferrente?
Yes.
Mrs. Labow?
Yes.
Mr. Perkins?
Yes.
Mr. Roman?
Yes.
Mr. Nacastro?
Yes.
Mr. Mania?
Yes. Administrative report.
I'll start if you don't mind.
Pardon?
I'll start if you don't mind. Thank you, John. Just briefly, it is with great pleasure that I am appointing Frank Wilbert Jr. to the Planning Board as Class 2 member. We were served well by Scott Van Ness, who has decided to take up other opportunities for the next few months, which will be a personal benefit to him. And fortunately, we have other excellent employees in the township, such as Junior, who will fill the spot. I think he will bring a new perspective to the board. He's always thought outside the box, and I look forward to his participation as Class 2 member on the planning board. So that is my recommendation. Actually, it's my appointment to the planning board, and I hope that John, the rest of the planning board, will welcome Frank Wilbert Jr. I think it's an excellent opportunity for him as he prepares for ultimately taking over a DPW director spot somewhere in the state of New Jersey. We hope that we will be able to keep him, but we recognize that he is a talent, somebody who is a great prospect for some other town that needs a DPW director. And we work to develop him with respect to all of the skills that would benefit him in the event that he ultimately stays with Mount Olive or moves someplace else within the state of New Jersey. So with that, I make the appointment of Frank Wilbert Jr. as Class 2 member of the Planning Board.
Mr. Canning.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just two items. One, the auction just recently concluded. We're going to have another resolution with more surplus property coming, I would imagine at the October 14th, if not the 28th meeting. Very successful, approaching $20,000 in auctioned items. We continue the track record of success. We put them out in Facebook and GovDeals, and we get a good return on our property. Very complimentary. I was contacted by the state of New Jersey Comptroller's Office. Now, normally, if you're not familiar with the Comptroller's Office, a phone call from them is akin to getting a call from the Internal Affairs Unit at the Prosecutor's Office. It's just not a pleasant call. They made it very clear they were doing a best cases story around the state, and they're going to use our one-armed bandit and our transition as one of their best cases. So I was very flattered after they said, "Oh, calm down, calm down." I said, "Come on in, I got nothing to hide. I'll see her for a week." But they're very intrigued by our process. They were kind of interested in our initial white paper back in 2012 and how we had gone through the process. And they're very interested in the follow-up numbers. Now, off the top of my head, and I will give council a brief memo at the end of the year, because it's our first full year having gone through this, and our savings, had we stayed the old course of 5 Western Packers, with those big step downs, 1 to 2 members on the back, plus a driver, and your labor costs, and the highest workers' comp in the county. Had we gone that route, our projections were $100,000 to $250,000 higher than what we're currently, the trajectory we are on for the next 1 to 3 years. So we saved money, reduced trucks on the road. We stepped out 5 Western Star Packers to do what 3 do now. And out of those 5 Western Stars, even if you staff them minimally with 1 driver and 1 guy in the back, you're talking 10 compared to 3 drivers. So it's a far cry from where we were. So it was kind of nice that the state of New Jersey actually took note too. They're using us and I believe about 6 to 10 others as kind of a best case scenario. So it was kind of nice to hear from something good from Trenton. And also at the end of the year, we'll be giving another update on our fleet. That was our other 2012 initiative. We're now in late 14, and that's certainly borne fruit. So, kudos to Sherry, Tim Quinn, the mayor, and anybody else involved in this. That the plans. It's nice to see the analysis kind of go the way it's supposed to, the metrics. So that's all I have.
Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. It's with great pleasure that I have reached agreement with Mr. Canning to stay on for a fourth year of my administration. When we originally contracted with Sean, it was basically for a 3-year term. We had set forth the salary arrangements, and Sean has done a phenomenal job. He certainly has lessened the load on all of us in terms of the administrative duties that we have to perform. And I spoke to Sean this week. He's agreed to stay on for a fourth year. Hopefully he'll stay on for longer. I'm sure he will. And I just, at this point, would be remiss if I didn't congratulate him on the job that he has done so far. I don't think that Mount Olive has, in the term that I've been involved in Mount Olive politics, has had a business administrator that has cared for or taken such good care of Mount Olive as Sean Canning. So this is my opportunity to thank him for the job that he's done, and I hope that you will all support him in the future as we move forward. So kudos to Mr. Canning.
Anything else?
Too bad he's a Jets fan.
Is that it, Mayor?
Except for the fact that he's a Jets fan, which is giving me great
Jets fans
opportunities
too.
on their fronts. But
Everybody has
we
warts.
won't go into that because I left him a present in his office 2 weeks ago.
How was that smell?
Yes, he did.
Yes, he did.
Any old business? Any new business? Mrs. Lebow?
Actually, Mayor, were you going to talk about the Tour de Mount Olive?
I wasn't planning on it because I'm still recovering.
It was excellent, excellent. It was a really good time. The mayor did a great job. He actually made it back.
That's the end of the story. I'm here today.
He's here today. It was really wonderful. I mean, the 40-mile bikers, we had more participate in that part of the event. And we didn't have as many family members, but there's just so many things going on. It's like hard to really do everything. But overall, I mean, it was just a phenomenal time. And again, it was wonderful volunteering at the registration table and have family after family after family coming and saying how much they love living in Mount Olive and how great, it's a great time to be here. And then we had people, I mean, you were talking to some of the gentlemen from the Washington Police Department. They came down and they rode the race and then they're going to ride back home.
It was actually Edison, and one was from Edison and one was from, I don't remember where the other police department was from.
Yeah, it was.
There was a broad range of people who participated.
it
But
was-
having said that, if you don't mind, Colleen.
No, go ahead.
You know, we run a number of different events, and part of my platform was to bring Mount Olive together as a community. So whether we make money or don't make money on an event, at the beginning, didn't really matter much because we were doing it together as a community. But now we're a couple of years in, and it's gonna come down to us looking at the events that we run, whether it's the beach that we run at Butt Lake, or my favorite event, which is the Tour de Mount Olive. And ultimately, recreation, because of the way that we fund them, has to look at their events and determine what works and what doesn't work. So next year, we may be coming to Mount Olive with a series of different events, some of which we've run in the past for numerous occasions and not looking to run again in the future. Some new things that we may be coming with in order to make recreation a viable entity for all of the events that they run. So I'm going to need your support as we move forward. And I'm going to give you a couple of examples. To me, dear to my heart is the Tour de Mount Olive. But if you look at the numbers, ultimately, we had about 90 riders on the 40-mile ride. The cost per rider was significantly greater than what we run on other events. And when you look at what it takes to run the events in terms of participation through sponsorship and the like, it was a great drain in terms of what recreation runs. So as a sacrifice, ultimately, when we look at the numbers, the Tour de Mount Olive may be an event that we no longer run because ultimately in the greater picture, it doesn't work for the Mount Olive Recreation Department, who's always looking to put on as many events as they can with the budget that they have. Having said that, and that was really a prelude to where I'm going, I've taken a look at the Bud Lake Beach. I've taken a look at other events that we run. The Bud Lake Beach, while it is a phenomenal thing that we offer, ultimately it is a losing proposition. And I have recommended to the Recreation Department that may be an event that we ultimately may not be able, an event, a service that we may not be able to run in the future. And while, politically, it's not a particularly favorable move, ultimately, when we sit up here and look at the greater picture in terms of what recreation runs, that may be something which we may not be able to offer next year. And I raise this now because I don't want it to be a political issue in terms of, we're going to run the beach another year because Mayor Greenbaum is up for election next year. Ultimately, I don't make decisions because I'm running for re-election. I make decisions because it's in the best interest of Mount Olive. So what I have directed the Recreation Department to do is to look at other towns in terms of what they offer and how they can offer it to Mount Olive. For instance, I've directed Recreation to contact Roxbury to find out what they will offer to Mount Olive residents to use Horseshoe Lake. This year, the Bud Lake Beach just wasn't terribly used. And for us to spend money to continue that process hurts all of the other programs that we run. And I'm not willing to move forward with that just because I'm running for re-election. So you may see next year in the budget process that I have not funded the Bud Lake Beach for that very reason. I may not fund or really approve of the Tour de Mount Olive for the very same reasons, which is very dear to my heart, because it doesn't work into the overall program of what we're offering. By the same token, and I tell you this now because it's going to be an issue, we've taken a hard look at the Memorial Day Parade, which was never terribly successful in terms of what we've run, simply because of the way that the town is situated. And we don't have a downtown area that makes a parade viable. And what I have suggested to both the Recreation and the Buildings and Grounds Department is to have a Memorial Day service which is true to the holiday, which is perhaps spend the money to bring in bagpipers, to have the 21-gun salute, to bring in a speaker on Memorial Day, to celebrate the essence of the holiday at our Turkey Brook Park, and instead take what was the parade and perhaps move it to the weekend before, where we have the Fairy and Princess Festival, and celebrate the essence of Mount Olive, and have a Mount Olive Day, where we can bring in the Cub Scouts, the baseball club, have fireworks that night, do the Fairy and Princess Festival the week before, and really celebrate Mount Olive so that we incorporate everything that was in the parade and still hold the essence of the significance of Memorial Day through a very tasteful celebration of what Memorial Day really is supposed to be, which is really celebrating the veterans and the loss of life, celebrating, representing, the armed forces and what they do for us. So I think next year, so it's not a surprise to you, I raise it now, that's really what my plan is. We've had a change in terms of the Memorial Day Parade, where the souls who really ran the parade are now gone. They turned it over, and I really do see the need to continue with the Memorial Day ceremony in a way that is respectful. But I think that we can celebrate the week before, the week after, in terms of living in Mount Olive separately and accomplish both goals. So that's where we're probably going to go next year in terms of what I'm going to present to you in terms of a budget.
Colleen?
I just wanted to also add on to what Mayor Greenbaum was saying, and I want to thank Mayor Greenbaum and Sherry and Sean and our staff was really impressive on Sunday morning when I got to, we had to be there between 7 and 7:30 for registration to get set up. And our recreation department had been there at 5:30 in the morning because in running the event and keeping the costs down, if they had buildings and grounds come in and start getting things set up, they'd be paying overtime. So our recreation staff got up early, went and got everything set up to save the money for the event, you know, so that the bottom line comes out, you know, better. And I just thought, wow, like what dedication that is, that they care so much about these events that they're watching every single penny and making sure that every event is, you know, is not a burden, basically. And it is a recreation utility, so they get paid by everything that's brought in. It's not like it's coming from the taxpayer's base. I just want to make that perfectly clear to anybody who's on the TV. I find a lot of people watch the, you know, TV a lot, the show. So I want to thank them very much and thank the mayor and the staff for setting such a fantastic example that all of our staff follows through with the direction that you're moving in.
Mr. Perkins.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mayor, I concur. I know you and I briefly spoke about the Memorial Day parade maybe about 2 months ago. The Recreation Department as it stands, we've looked at that since it started, since we agreed that it would become a self-liquidating utility. And I have to tell you that I agree with Mrs. Leybow as well as the mayor. A harder group of working people is tough to find in any other municipality. Everybody in this building, in this community in the past 3 years has pulled together for the benefit of the community without any selfishness, without any handout looking for anything extra. They've given beyond, above and beyond. For that, I commend the administration, and Sean, you've done a heck of a job with your leadership, getting people to think that way. Not that they didn't have it in them before, but you brought out the best in a lot of people. As far as Memorial Day, I agree with the mayor. It's, you know, it is a somber time, especially us veterans. You know, I'm kind of lucky because Veterans Day comes around, and that's where we honor all veterans. Memorial Day is a very somber day for me. I'm up early. I lower the flag on my front lawn. I used to do the ones at the townships. All our parks folks did it. I've always been honored every year to stand at the base of the standard and be able to raise it back to full staff after taps. There hasn't been a year that doesn't go by that any of us that have lost friends in war and that have fought in war, and for anybody that's a veteran, you know what it's like. For any of us that are combat veterans, you really know what it's like. And for anybody who's witnessed death, you don't ever want to see that again. I think whatever the mayor and the administration puts together, the council should fully support. I know I will fully support it. I think that, as I made a speech, I believe it was 2 years ago, that as a veteran, they fought and died for us to enjoy life. And while we should all take a moment to reflect upon their sacrifice, we should cherish and celebrate what they wanted for us, which was freedom. And that freedom is family, friends, colleagues, co-workers. So once noontime comes around, and if you remember the moment of silence at 3 o'clock, and it's, I don't know why 3, I guess because it's California, just like the Super Bowl, everything goes around California. At 3 o'clock you can take that moment, but for 10 minutes, or at least during the dignity of the ceremony at Turkey Brook Park in a phenomenal memorial, I believe that this township should support 100% whatever the mayor comes up with. If there's a committee, Mayor, that you would like to put together for any assistance, I offer it as a fellow veteran, and I fully support moving forward with this. The parade, unfortunately, the days when I moved here 28 years ago and started marching in the parade was a lot different than it's been for the past couple of years. Not that it's still not fun, but it becomes down to the point where we've had less and less people that come out every year. It does cost money for the township to run that parade. It's not free. Police, fire, other people that are out there. So I think this year, let's look at 2015 as being a resurrection for the memorial and for the remembrance. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Perkins. Any other new business? Legal matters.
Thank you, Council President. I thought for this meeting I would have the Paragon Village agreement, but you know what? The state just today gave me the draft agreement. But it's much in line what this governing body said that you would agree to. So I think we're right in step for the next meeting to hopefully have it for your consideration and approval. And again, I think it's a real favorable agreement, as I mentioned last meeting. And also Cobblestone, the saga continues, but we have more information, and for the next meeting, I'll have an update in your packet as far as the feasibility to develop that property. We have more information, and I think we're at a point where we'll be able to make a recommendation how to proceed. Yes, Mayor.
Mayor?
Where do we stand in terms of the pilot program with Marvel Land Farms COA units?
Well, that was approved at the last meeting.
I wasn't here,
Yeah.
so we're all
Yeah,
done with that
we're
at this
good.
point?
Everything's in order. There were some issues with respect to the terms of the agreement, but they're not substantial, that it was approved, but we're still ironing out, but all the material terms have been agreed upon and ratified by the governing body.
I expect that we're going to be breaking ground there relatively shortly.
Okay. We're ready, from an administration standpoint, everything's in order.
Good, great. Thank you.
That's my report. Thank you.
Council reports, Mr. Amienda,
None.
Mr. Ferrante.
Yeah, we have the fall lake cleanup on October 11th, so if there's any organizations that want to volunteer and help out, you can let myself know and I'll get in touch with the group. And also on October 11th is the fall festival at the public library from 11 to 3. That's all.
That's it. Mrs. Laybell, senior citizen.
Nothing to report on the seniors or the Economic Development Committee, but for the TNR, they're going to be having their yard sale at the After on October 17th and 18th. So if anybody has anything they would like to donate, please do so. You can either contact me or contact TNR. And that's it.
Mr. Mayor?
Yeah, please tell the seniors that this point in this year, I challenged them to the bocce ball on behalf of the administration and the town council. I
You
wasn't
took the
avail-
words out of my mouth. I was going to ask her
I wasn't available to
that.
make it last year,
Yeah.
but I think that I can actually anchor the team, and they should really worry about what's going to happen this year.
Last year, they didn't play us. They did police. They're every other year.
Yes, but
So,
you should tell
this year,
them that they
yeah.
should be worried.
All right, I'll let them know. Are we gonna get matching shirts? They had shirts.
I'll see what's
We
left in
didn't
the
have
budget.
Yeah, we all got the
Yeah, we
council
have our
shirt.
Yeah, we have our blue council shirts.
Yeah.
Oh, I think we need something special. It's gotta be more akin to like a bowling shirt.
Yeah. Is that it, Mrs. Laybell?
That's it, thank you.
Mr. Perkins?
Nothing to report, Mr. President.
Mr. Roman?
I, too, have nothing to report.
Mr. Nacastro?
I have nothing on the health department because I was away for that meeting, but I do have some information from the legislators that they're telling me they've been fighting every day for the largest municipality. They're pushing hard to make our job easier with the toolkit bills, fair school funding, and civil service reform. Assembly Leader John Bramnick put together a proposal which Assembly people, McHose and Space co-sponsored, which establishes 4 joint legislative strategic planning committees to recommend proposals to offer long-term solutions for major issues facing the state. The committees include Legislative Strategic Planning, Public Employee Benefits, Joint Legislative Strategic Planning Committee, and Effects of State Policy, Planning Committee on Future Education, Public Education Funding and Reform, Joint Legislative Strategic Planning Committee, Jobs and Economic Development, and the committees review and formula, and they will make recommendations to the House of Legislatures.
Thank you, Mr. Nacastro. I have nothing on the planning board. Public, anyone from the public wish to be heard?
Mike, this is your chance.
Come on, this is your
Because, no,
big
Mike,
time.
if you get up
No?
and say something interesting, David will interview you afterwards.
Yeah.
Ask you to stay here.
If not, I'll close it to the public. Council comments. Mr. Amienda?
Yes, Mr. President. For future discussion, I would like to introduce an ordinance lowering the speed limit from 25 to 20 miles an hour in all of Mount Olive Township streets and the parks. Enforcement of the ordinance may change drivers and bicyclists' driving behavior. This council is committed to doing what we can to bring greater public awareness of the perils of unsafe driving by motorists and cyclists that endangers pedestrians in the town. I do not have the exact numbers, but too many people have been killed or seriously injured in our streets. The town should step up the enforcement of speeding cars and bikes as well. If we do not increase enforcement, lowering the speed limit will be pointless. My comments is best for future council discussion of lowering the speed limit in town. Thank you.
Mr. Semro, did you want to comment?
Yeah, I'll speak to Mr. Canning, and I'm sure we can put together what the parameters are, but everyone should know that that's a difficult task, the way the law is and what you need as far as certifications from your engineer. There's actual certain percentiles that people actually have to be speeding, but we'll outline that for you so that you can understand what the process is and if it does fit. But my first reaction is, well, certainly it's a suggestion that most people would take seriously. It's very difficult the way the law is written to change the speed limits. But Mr. Canning, we could put together a memorandum and walk through that process. And I'm sure as a former chief, you're familiar
My first
with it.
inclination would be problem identification. I don't know
Right.
if we have a problem townwide. I guarantee you, and I agree with Mr. Amianda, that there certainly are streets in town at which I'm sure the chief of police, Chief Spitzer, would be able to identify, our top traffic accident locations and where we have enforcement frustration. So I think as part of, just like they would say, the problem identification matrix, identify accurately the problem, and maybe we, I think it's a very good thought, and maybe we identify those targeted areas, ask for the chief for his input, the engineer, and we go from there.
Right.
Thank you.
Mr. Perkins?
Thank you, Mr. President. I would remind the council, Mr. Amianda, you weren't here last year. When we started looking at lowering speed limits, I had made a broad brush statement that if we were going to look at symptomatically lowering the speed limit in areas of concern where we had concerned residents that were asking for speed bumps or reduction in speed, or around the high school because a school bus driver was slightly blinded by the sun, then we should blatantly look and go across the township and lower everything to 25 miles per hour. So while I commend Mr. Amianda for bringing that back up again, I do believe that the chief and all had already started to look at some of the roads last year, Sean, when we had brought that up. So I think, Fred, that report and any of those findings should be relatively easy to get to Councilman Amianda so that he could take a look and review that, and then we could open that up in the next
It's a
time
good
around.
suggestion.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Mr. Ferrante?
I just want to congratulate Sean on extending his stay with us, and I think we all agree that he's a huge asset to the town, and hopefully we'll see you around longer than just one more year.
Coming from a fellow Jets fan.
Yes.
That's pretty bad.
The camaraderie.
May have a longer stay than Rex Ryan.
Thank you.
Mrs. Labow?
Thank you, Mr. President. I also want to thank Mr. Kenning for staying on, and also just to let him know that if he tried to leave, I don't think we would have let him. We'd have flattened his tires or whatever. And
I'll fix them.
and Jets fan, yay, go Jets! I'm gonna have to bring my grandson and my granddaughter up in Jets
Don't do that to
Jets outfits and put him in the
Delightful
mayor's
game.
chair.
Be like a San Francisco 49er fan or something.
That's all. Thank you.
Mr. Perkins?
Thank you, Mr. President. Really quick, ladies and gentlemen, I received in the mail today from Picture This on Granite, the folks that we had purchased the 9/11 memorial from, and it's dated September 15th. It's Dear Ray and members. We want to thank you all for the opportunity of working with you on your 9/11 memorial to see your dream come to reality, and a memorial that everyone certainly can take pride in. Thanks for putting your trust with us. PG, sincerely, Bonnie and the PG team. Bonnie Cloud is the, Goodsell is the president of Picture This on Granite. It was good working with her. She got things done when we thought they wouldn't be. So sometimes you have to go to the top. If the council and mayor have no objection, I will be writing a letter of recommendation on Township Stationery, Fred, as a council member, thanking them for the opportunity to work with them and recommending that any other municipality that was looking forward to utilizing their service, that they would be a good vendor to look for. So,
Mr. Roman.
May I camp on to Mr. Perkins' comments, if you don't mind, Council President? I have to tell you that, leaving all else aside, as I drive up to Turkey Brook these days, seeing the 9/11 memorial at the entrance to the park is a phenomenal sight. And even in my best day, prior to the installation of the monument, I never thought of the significance, the importance, or the beauty of what we have accomplished. And as I sit here, I can tell you that probably almost 100% of the comments that I get from residents in terms of what we spent and what we produced is overwhelmingly positive. And it is an incredible accomplishment that Councilman Perkins spearheaded the effort and made it happen, and all of the kudos in terms of the monument and the improvement to Mount Olive belong to Councilman Perkins on the 9/11 memorial. So I would be remiss to take credit for Councilman Perkins' achievement in terms of the improvement to Mount Olive, and I bask in the glory of what we have accomplished, and I salute Councilman Perkins in making it happen. So,
Just a quick comment. I can remember when Turkey Brook was slated for 128 residential homes. As a member of the planning board, we were quite frustrated at what we can do. And certainly we have to thank Mayor LaCitra for his vision and thought in purchasing the land for Turkey Brook.
Mr. Mania? Mayor, council members, and everyone here, thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. There's a coach that, for those people that think that this was a great vision, who said, "I'm only great because I have great people that work with me." And that's exactly what I can say about everybody from Lisa Brett through Sean. The mayor always supported this. John, you were very helpful. All the people that donated within the township, it was phenomenal. The local businesses really stepped up, and our parks and buildings guys did a phenomenal job. And it was quite hot, and they were pressured into getting this thing done. And when that thing didn't arrive until 2 days before, and the amount of work that the gentlemen and ladies accomplished up there, if it wasn't for them, my vision never would have come to reality. So again, thank you everybody for all the kind words, and I hope that thing stands there for many years and great services. Thank you, John.
Mr. Roman.
I have nothing.
Mr. DeCastro, you finished?
Yeah, I'm done. I just wanted to say congratulations to Sean, and actually it burst my bubble because I thought every business administrator was this good because it's my first term, so I never knew any better. So I'm glad he's here, and I'm glad he's staying because he's made certainly our lives a lot easier, at least from what I understand, and appreciate everything you do.
I too am quite glad that Mr. Canning is staying, and I'm also so proud, as the mayor indicated before in presenting those certificates, of our girls and boys team. Their accomplishments are unbelievable. I mean, it's put Mount Olive on the map, and God bless them. Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved.